We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain. That is their primary method of survival. Keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated.
You're listening to Toward Anarchy on the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here's your host, Michael Storm.
Good to be back. It's always so great to be here. It's Toward Anarchy. I'm your host, Michael Storm. Thanks for tuning in. It's Saturday night. We're here on the Republic Broadcasting Network worldwide. Such a fantastic thing to be here with you each week, and I just appreciate you taking the time and coming here and hanging out with me. It really is truly a fascinating thing that you would do such a thing, and it's appreciated. It really, truly is. You can find me on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. It's at Toward Anarchy, and wherever you find me, please just take a moment to click that like button, tap that like button, whatever it is. It only takes just a second to do it. I will even stop the video or start a video again if I watched it and forgot to click the video. I'll go back, I'll click it again. Oh, I forgot to do that. Let's hit that like button. That's the kind of loyalty I'm looking for here. Follow along at towardanarchy.com. As always, it's the place to go when you want to know, I guess you might say. Holy crap, that is so loud. I'm watching a VU meter. I didn't have one before. I have a volume meter in front of me now, though, because I've been having the trouble with the volume. I've been messing around with these stupid digital sound devices that try to adjust their audio instead of just record the audio that I put into the thing and leave it the hell alone. It wants to try to adjust it as I'm going along, and I'm trying to find different ways around that, and I don't know if I found it yet or not, but watching the VU meter, I can see it spike there sometimes, and it just makes me wonder why. There's not. It's so far down, and it's just that it's got to be that digital sensitivity that it is. It's ridiculous the way it is. I am tired of fighting with it. I know that, and I'm in the process of. I have other solutions. I have other microphones, and I'm going to plug a microphone in through a non-digital port is what I'm going to do, and then that way it doesn't have the ability to alter it and adjust it on me, and I can just set it and go. And then when I see meters like that, they'll actually be fairly consistent with the sound that's actually coming out of my mouth, and not just I don't know what it's doing. It tries to keep up with me somehow, and that's ridiculous. I can't even keep up with myself. TowardAnarchy.com to follow along. I'll be watching the whole thing the entire time here. We're just so. It's been fantastic. It's just been a crazy month here. This last 30 days, 33 days, something like that I've gone through, and just so much accomplished, and so many things done, and so many things coming to a head, and yet so many things more still to look forward to. And wow, I'm glad I get to take a break from it all at some point, because it seems like I get lost in it a little bit sometimes, and just don't really know where it is that I want to be. Sometimes it's just all a little bit too much, and you're going, is this the right thing in my mind? But I think it's always good to question yourself, to make sure that you do believe that you're headed in the right direction, and that's what I do. I answer the question when I ask myself, yeah, you're headed in the right direction. Why wouldn't it be the right direction? It makes you happy. It's what you want to do. There's more to come from it. There's more to do with it. It answers the question for me. And so here you find me coming each week to chat with you about the things that I found interesting in my life over the past week. And it being a month since I've really been here. I've done the shows, but they've been very specific. The last couple of shows that I did were all about the rights and the amendments, and they were very spot on topic and not really drifting too far from that. And I prefer the openness of it. I don't like the singular conversation because I don't get a chance to just sort of wander around and find what's out there. And that's kind of where I find myself today. A fantastic show planned for you. In fact, well, we'll give a shout out to the people on Rumble. You guys are amazing. I've been on there such a short amount of time and gaining such traction on it, and it's really awesome. Still, click that like button, though. Coming up on the show today, I got Vic Lagina. He'll be with us here. And I told you about Vic. He is a 20-year veteran of the porn industry as a director and a producer of content for Brazzers. And you know the big story with Brazzers. If you don't, you can go look it up. It's Brazzers. And don't type in the .com part of it, or it'll take you to it. But you can look it up in the news, and you look at what's going on with them, what they've done in the industry, and what's happened, and or I'll save you the trouble. You can just tune into Vic here at the top of the hour, and he'll tell you all about it, and he'll tell you about his book, Filthy. And it's really a fantastic conversation. It's not a dirty conversation, and it's not a conversation about sex. It's not about sexual topics. It's about the industry. It's about his experience in it. It's about the changes in it that he's seen over the years and what it's become today, what it was then, and being in the Brazzers camp as they were doing what they were doing and sort of taking over the industry and providing ultimately some very questionable content from questionable people, not just the content itself, but the people themselves not being stable. And Vic and I get into all of that in the conversation coming up here at the top of the hour. And some more great guests coming up for you over the next few weeks. I was a guest on the Spooky Scholars podcast. Spooky Scholars podcast. Don't try to say that one too fast too many times. The Spooky, see, I did it again. Spooky Scholars. Look, I'm going to quit. I'm just going to turn the microphone off. I'm just going to go away for a while. How about this? Let's just, here, have a drink. It's just Pepsi. All right. I was a guest on the Spooky Scholars podcast this week, and I don't know when the actual episode posts, but I will share it with you. It was a really great conversation. We just talked about horror, and we talked about fandom, and we talked about anarchy, and we talked about free speech and cancel culture, and we covered all the topics. It was a worthwhile conversation. I really enjoyed talking to Ash. I will have her come on the show if I can get her to do so. I'm pretty sure she will. It seemed like she was up to it. Just because we really had a good conversation, I think it would be really cool to continue the conversation and maybe ask a little bit about her, because we didn't really get into her. She was a teacher in a private school, and she's a fan of horror, obviously, and learning and studying and history and the current, the present, and what's going on in our world today. No, it's just a really fantastic conversation, so I'll let you in on it when it comes up. Next week, Cody Johnston, he is a Canadian, and we'll be talking about Canada, and we'll be talking about tariffs, and we'll probably talk about tariffs a little bit today, too. Ross Pitkoff on the 19th, we'll talk about the law and legal disputes, contract law, about real practice. This is a guy who owns a law firm, and the real practice of it, and we'll talk about the speculation of the law too. We'll just have a little bit of fun talking about celebrities, and it just sounded like it would be a really interesting conversation. Dr. Dean Lloyd to wrap up the month, and then if all goes well, Cam F. Awesome, the Olympic boxer, will join us to kick off May, and where we go from there, I don't know yet, because I already booking out in advance just gets me twisted. It really does. Let me tell you about something that's going on around here. A couple of things that are going on around here. First of all, support the network, republicbroadcasting.org, of course, and over there on the left-hand side is that donate button. It just takes a couple of clicks, and boom, boom, bing, bang, bong. You are donating one time monthly, whatever you need to do, you put the dollar amount there, you click the buttons, and it's all handled. Otherwise, give us a call, 800-724-2719, extension 3. You can talk to somebody there about sending a check. I can tell you the address, but you can get more information there on the phone line. 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. And visit shoprbn.com, of course. The win-win. We love it, the win-win. You support the advertisers by buying their products, and the advertisers continue to support us because they see that it works, and it does. And they have some great products up there on shoprbn.com. So make that one of the clicks that you click onto as you're making your journey through the internet at any given time. And keep, Republic Broadcasting Network on your list of things to support. But if you appreciate not just my content, even if you don't appreciate my content, I'm 2 hours out of an entire week. That's changing. I'll fill you in just a second. It's 2 hours out of the week. And there's so many other voices, there's so many other programs, there's so many other conversations and things that need to be talked about, and it's because of you that we can do it, and your support for Republic Broadcasting Network. And it's never been tighter. It's as tight as we know you hear the conversations. You're listening to the same conversations. We're having the conversations. Some of us are leading the conversations about the economy and how bad it is. And so it's tough for everybody. If you can do it, do it. Click that donate button and support the network. So what I was getting at when I was talking about there being a change in that, the 2 hours here that I do every week is going to continue, but for the next 9 weeks, I believe is how it will work out. This is just sort of a test run to see how well it goes, to see if we can get you guys to participate in it. And we did the first show here Thursday this week. It worked out really well. We broke the ice. We got out there and we took a call and talked about some real world health issues. It's called Your Health in Mind. It's myself as the host and Dr. Lloyd there beside me, just chatting with people, you listeners across the network. We're live during the week. It's 1 p.m. Thursdays, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time on Thursdays, just for an hour. We'll take a few quick calls, answer some questions. We're not giving health advice. We can't do that. Dr. Lloyd isn't there. He's not there with you. He can't diagnose you over the phone, but you can have a conversation, and he can help empower you to have a conversation with your health care provider, give you the tools, the support you need to be able to speak with them about the topics that concern you and to take control of your health and your health care concerns. So Your Health in Mind, that's every Thursday for the next 9 weeks, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, live across the network, where we'll be taking your calls. Very cool thing, Dr. Lloyd. That's one of the things I was talking about over this past month that ultimately has come to a head here and has been decided and is being done and is working on. It's something that Dr. Lloyd and I have been talking about for some time now. And it's amazing. It's awesome. We're just doing. It's not this show. It's not the Dr. Lloyd show. It's not me interviewing Dr. Lloyd. He and I chat, of course, in between phone calls and such. But ultimately, the goal is to get you guys to call in and to address the health topics and the health concerns. I know that Dr. Lloyd and I we'll always have something in mind that we can talk about. We're talking about fasting and sort of cleansing the system here on this first episode, and we'll have some sort of general topic, but that doesn't mean anything about what you can talk about. We're there for you. It's live. You can call in, and we'll answer the questions. We'll try to give you the tools and the resources to go to your healthcare provider informed and prepared to stand up for yourself in the presence of an industry. You know, that's really truly what it is. It's an industry, and it's there to make money, and it can overlook people, and it can overlook patients, and it can overlook your needs and your desires, and it can and not only because the doctor may or something, but the system itself has its rules and its the way it controls the doctors under it and the way the doctors are made to control the patients. It may not be about the doctor. It may not be their desire, and they may not even understand what kind of a system that they're in really at this point. I know that doesn't seem reasonable at face value, but then you have to remember that doctors are C students too, that not every doctor is an A student, and for what that's worth in regard to the public school system and A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, O, P grades. But just the relative sense of somebody who can accomplish, can finish, can get the higher grade, generally speaking, over the people that are lax, that are going to miss the test, that are going to miss something. Most of the doctors fall into that category too. They're just normal people like the rest of us, maybe slightly above average, but that's only in the sort of respect in that ability to get that grade in school. So, you're rolling the dice no matter what you do. So you might as well be informed. You might as well have as much of the tools and be able to hold up as much of the side of the conversation as you can, just to defend yourself, just to be able to protect yourself from the system. You get this story that I had for you here. I don't know that I told you the end of it, because the end of it doesn't make it any better. So the old man, my wife's father, he took a little spill, had a little crack in the femur there, nothing major, took a little bit, it could have been a hell of a lot worse, no surgery, had to do a little bit of rehab. While he's in the rehab, he has COPD, and so he has one of those machines, a CPAP machine. And the CPAP machine was not functioning right, and it was obvious that at face value that they were doing something wrong, that there was something wrong with it. And they have this, that there was something wrong with them, that there was nothing wrong with the machine, because I've been using the machine. I'm no expert in it, but I know the machine. It's a very simple machine. It's got a couple of buttons on it. You plug a couple of things into it, that's it. There's not much to it. And it's kind of self-diagnosing. If it's working, if it's functioning properly, it shows you little happy faces on the screens. It's kind of an idiot's device. It makes it really simple for you, and so they're not able to use it. And these are professionals. These are healthcare professionals, and they're saying, "Oh, there's something wrong with the machine. Something's happened to it." And it worked perfectly fine before it came here. So whatever, they have their workaround. They just do direct oxygen, and it's not as functional for him, but it keeps him from not being able to breathe at night, and he wakes up lucid and not wondering where the hell he is and lost him, because we went through all of that because they weren't giving him the oxygen. It wasn't getting to him, and of course they were blaming it on the machine. And I set it straight, and I put it in, and it appeared to be working in perfect working order, and supposedly they tried it again and it didn't work, and they said it didn't work. So we get through all that, and he finally comes home, and immediately, it was not the next day, but the day after, I think it was 2 or 3 days, that we took it over to the VA to have them look at the machine. They're the ones that provided the machine for him, and they have a spot right in there, and they can test it, and they plug it in, and they can read data off of it, and it's a wireless device. It's connected wirelessly to our home network here, and it sends them data all the time about his breathing, and so they can go back and they can look at it, and they can see at points where it's crashed and where it's working, where he's crashed, where the oxygen's working, where it's not on, that sort of thing, or they get no reading from it because he didn't put it on. They had months of that, and when we finally had to take over and start making him wear it and make sure that he was getting it on properly at night. And so that's how we ended up becoming familiar with the device ultimately, and knowing that there was nothing wrong with it. And of course we took it over to the VA, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. We did nothing to it. It is still working exactly the same way it was before we took it over there, and should have been while it was there. But they were these professionals, these healthcare professionals, including a respiratory specialist. I couldn't remember the phrase that they used at the time when I was first talking about it, but yes, a respiratory specialist was not able to figure out this machine, this very, very simple device that is very common. A lot of people use, especially people where they're at. They're in a rehab center where a whole bunch of old people are there. They have like 45 rooms, and most of them are of old people who have taken the spill. It's not so many young people they're rehabbing, and so they should be familiar with it. They should know it. There's no excuse why they shouldn't have been able to make that machine work, is what I'm getting at, and this all goes back to that question of your health and your health concerns and your ability to control those and to control the narrative when they come speaking to you about what they're going to do to you or what they won't do to you, or when they tell you that they're professionals when they're just practitioners, that being the real truth of it all, and that some of them are better at it than others, and most of them again are just kind of C student types, generally speaking. They're no better than the rest of the general population. I don't know why I have to say that. I don't know why everybody seems to think that just because you get the stamp of approval from the public system, that the public school system, that somehow magically you are going to succeed in the world. Most of the people who succeed happen to have a story, something along the lines of, yeah, I was in school and I didn't do really well, and so I left school. That's how that ends. So let's start over with the idea that just because somebody gets A's in school, that they're necessarily good or bad. Same with the B's, the C's, and the D's. It just doesn't really express that much about the person or the individual or their potential, because there's so many other things going on with the public school system, the sizes of the classrooms and the mandates and the constant shifting of the way they're trying to teach people, and then you have the agendas of the school boards and the agendas of the teachers unions and the agendas of the teacher, and it's just, it is what everything is in the public. Is just a bit of a cluster, and it's not real easy to follow along with it, to put up with it, to control it. Oh my, so out of control, that public education system. But so I have some things we're going to talk about. Because I'm kind of lost and kind of in this space. I don't know where. Yeah, I'm behind, I guess, is what it is. The little bit of time and effort that I put into understanding the silliness of the world, I've put even less in recently. And so I thought maybe we'd take a look. I have some links for you there, of course, at towardanarchy.com. It's 2512. That's the episode. And of course, you'll see when you get there, Vic Lagina, he's coming up at the top of the hour. And there they are. Look, there they are. There's the links. There's the reaction. There's a quote. And there's a great little meme. Since we were talking about the public school system, there's this fantastic meme that, again, I'm unable to tell you who made it or where it came from, because they didn't label it, or it was trimmed off by somebody else down the way. I don't edit out them. I'll make them look prettier sometimes if they look bad, but I won't edit out who created them or something like that. I always try to give them credit. This is Captain Planet. If you don't know who Captain Planet is, I can only tell you that he's the 90s version of the Green Movement, and better him than what we have today in some of these cases. But it just talks about, it shows the various kids that call Captain Planet. They all have these little power ring kind of things, Power Rangers, and all along those same lines. A Voltron, where it's a group, a diverse group of people. Young black man, a young Asian or Indian male, a young Asian female, and a white redheaded kid, and the a blonde, blonde-haired, blue-eyed. But then they get together and they pull their little ring powers together. I don't know, it's like earth and wind and fire and not the band. And they pull their magic together and they summon Captain Planet and they save the planet. Or not. I've actually never watched the show. I just know what it is. But it's great because each of the little kids is up there with their ring, and it's obedience and conformity and memorization and repetition and over-medication. That is public schooling. I just ended up talking about it. It's just great that I shared that meme. I was going through, I don't have a ton of memes, but I'll see a few throughout the week or something, and I'll try to grab a couple of them so I'll have the one to share with you. And I no, why do we even have this? Delete. No, God, this is out of date. Delete. And then I came across, oh yeah, here we go. This is great. This is good. We will put that one up there. For what you call the law is but a club of the rich over the lowest of men, sanctifying the conquest of the earth by a few and making their theft the way of things. Gerard Winstanley. And I shouldn't have to tell you this, but I will, just because we're kind of free-forming it, rolling with it today. I'll just mention that just because I shared a quote by that guy doesn't mean that I support every single thing he's ever said. It doesn't mean that he was a good person. It doesn't mean that he was a bad person. It doesn't mean he was an anarchist. It doesn't mean anything except that I read a quote and I thought the quote was good and I shared it with you and I gave you the source. That's it. It's not an endorsement. It is not me suggesting that whoever, Lincoln or somebody, I've shared quotes from all sorts of people because, the sun shines on a dog's butt. Sometimes, that's the saying, right? A broken clock is right twice a day, depending on the type of clock. If it says AM and it never switches the AM and PM, I shouldn't have to say that I'm just sharing the thought. That thought right there is just enough. That's all you need to know. That's it. For what you call the law is but a club of the rich over the lowest of men, sanctifying the conquest of the earth by a few and making their theft the way of things. It says everything I want it to say. You don't need to read anything more into it at all. I could skip it and not share the person who said it, but then that doesn't work for me. I appreciate the idea of being able to quote somebody and being able to share with someone else that quote and who came up with that idea. And it would be just quotes for me. It would only be one-liners. I like the one-liners. Take my wife, please. The Anarchist Audit. We'll get into it here. We'll read a couple of things, but I want to take a look at the headlines before we do that, just because I don't know what's going on, and I thought it might be fun. It never really works out because there's usually something that I go, oh my God, do we have to look it over this? And do we really, again, this is so simple, so stupid, but that we're still going to look. But first I want to tell you about a great comic book that I read this week. Well, I'm a sucker for a good cover. There's no question about that. And we're taking everyone down with us. The C cover this week was just fantastic. I had to have it. Even just seeing a static image of it on the ordering screen, it looked cool. It's a virgin cover. It's cardstock and it's die cut. It's a Android with a hole blasted through it, and you see through the hole into the main cover, which is a pistol. It's a pistol that's just been fired and being held by hand, and thus the hole in the Android that is in the cover. We're taking everyone down with us. It's written by Matthew Rosenberg, art by Stefano Landini, and it's on Image, and it's this really fantastic read so far. I'm really enjoying it. Right when I cracked it, I got this Isle of Dr. Moreau feel from it, and I don't think I was disappointed in that at all. It's about Annalise. Annalise is the daughter of Dr. Dante Alderman. Dante Alderman is a smart guy, a very smart guy, self-professed at least anyway. It seems to be a scientist type, maybe a mad scientist type. They're out on an island by themselves. There's talk of guys of his intelligence being dangerous to the system, to the status quo, to those in charge, and that he has enemies, and it's hinted that Annalise's mother has been killed by the enemies. There's not much mention of Annalise's mother other than that. There's one other mention at one point about the mother, and that is that she was highly intelligent as well. So that and we just don't really know any more than that at this point, anyway. What we do know for sure, though, is that Dr. Alderman is at a crucial stage of his research, and we're being told this a lot by a lot of people. Annalise is being told this as she just wants to play. She just wants Daddy to play tag with her. She's a young child. This is a young girl. And but Daddy's too busy. He's too busy. He's out to save the world. And the man chained up in the basement is only going to complicate things, and she doesn't even know about the vampire apes yet. So you tell me, what's that all mean? I don't read any spoilers. I don't do any spoilers. I don't even really necessarily read the synopsis of any of these comic books. Sometimes I'll read them after I've already read the comic book, just to see if it'll be an interesting thing, because it'll be to see if I'm getting the same message that the publisher, the creators wanted me to get out of it. Did I read the same thing that they wanted me to read, or am I reading something else into it? And with some of these books that are so intriguing, and frame such great universes and characters in such a short amount of space, am I getting what they really want me to get? Did I get the message in that story? Is there more to it than that? Am I missing something? And only in a sense of that when I do these things, I don't want to give away any spoilers. I told you about this book. Well, I didn't tell you anything about this book. There's so much more to read inside this book, but I think I gave you a space to start with, a reason maybe to go and pick it up, and that's the best I can do, I think. It's available now in your local comic shop. We're taking everyone down with us. If you can't get a copy where you're at, by all means, hit me up at AmazingFantasies.com. I can help you with that. If you don't have a comic book shop in your area, I hear stories about them closing. There was another story again today. It's sad that I even have to say this, but it's almost a daily thing that I read another story about another comic book shop closing here or there, and just somebody's general access to comic books going away, whether it's online. There was an online, a popular online place to buy comic books that died today, I think. They just shut down. The physical stores that were represented by the online space are still there, but the online space is gone, and so everybody that was buying books through that space now can't. They have to find them somewhere else. And so if you find yourself in a position like that, visit us here in Topeka, Kansas, or hit us up through AmazingFantasies.com. Yeah, you really just have to come visit us in the store. It truly is an experience. It's not like going to Costa Bonita or Six Flags or something like that, but if you're a geek, if you're a collector, the store is fantastic. You could, if you have the time, you could come and you want to dig through comic books, or you want to dig through Magic cards or Pokemon cards, something like that, the things that we have thousands and thousands of. You could spend hours. You could spend hours. Go to towardanarchy.com to follow along. Episode 2512 is where we're at. Vic Lagina coming up at the top of the hour. We're going to talk about his 20-year experience as a veteran of the porn industry and as a director director of content for Brazzers. And it's a really great conversation. You're really going to appreciate it, because like all these industries, I mentioned this to Vic when we were talking, because I mention this all the time, and it's one of these things I shouldn't have to say over and over again. But that when you're talking about these industries, like Hollywood or Hollywood is the best example. It really is. It's just because everybody's Hollywood bad. But Hollywood is thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, lots and lots of people. It's not just Disney. It's not just, I don't know. I don't even know where people get it. It's a weird thing to me. But it's the same in his industry and the industry that he was in. There's real people there, and real situations and real lives at stake, and everybody there for their own reasons and with their own reasoning and with their own morality. And you know me, as long as it's voluntary, then I don't have a lot to say about it. And that's kind of the way the porn industry works. And so it's a really great conversation. It really is, and you'll enjoy it. Coming up at the top of the hour, we'll get him in here. So what I wanted to do is, because I feel like I'm so far behind, and I just have not really looked at anything. I did take the time just last night when I was prepping the page for the show to make sure that I grabbed some fresh links and threw them up there. And there's a couple of interesting topics, but that's all I've done. That's the only thing. Those 5 links, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 links to stories is all I've done for the last few weeks. So I thought maybe we'd just take a minute and see if there was anything interesting in the headlines. First of all, there's nothing red line up there at the moment, so that's going to be boring. Let's see. Judge orders return of Maryland father deported to El Salvador and slams Trump's unconstitutional removal. That's fantastic. Boy, that's a great place to start because, I've been trying to be very open, forgiving, open to the idea that maybe, possibly, Trump could do something good, that this Doge, that these attempts to shrink the government, supposedly, to find the fraud, all these things that they're claiming that they're doing, if they would do that, that would be fantastic, right? That would be a good thing. You've seen what's happened here with Milei taking over in Argentina and their economy the way it is now, and just the way their entire society is now in such a short period of time, and just massive reductions in government, and they've taken their inflation from a number like 240% or something like that down to a reasonable, single digit, bordering on double digit, something like that. Number, just a ridiculous low number. I think it all kind of depends on what you're gauging exactly and who's gauging it. And I hate to think that there are people out there that make things sound better or make things sound worse than they are, but there are. And I don't like to be that person. I like to just speak in sort of general terms. The point being, there has been massive changes in their lifestyle and in their economy, and it's because of the slashing of the government. But I will be the first to tell you that we're talking about Colorado versus the United States. We're in terms of I don't even know. Let's see. Let's do this thing. Let's see. Argentina population. What's it say? Argentina's population is huge. That's pretty big. That's giant size. 46 million, it says here in 2024. And so let's see. So then you do this. You do U.S. state populations. It's right up top. And you don't date it. That way it just finds the normal one. It keeps trying to offer you a date there. Let's see, 2025 population states 39. So rank California number 1. So basically, it's a little bigger than California. What you're getting at in terms of population, it's a lot bigger. But that's the closest thing that you have to a comparison to something in America, not America. America obviously is considerably more people than that. Where'd it go? Where did you? Oh, that's right, because I wrote it backwards. So the 46 million, there's 350 or more here in America, so it's not a comparison there. A better comparison is when you do a smaller state, when you look at an individual state, and that's a more honest comparison because you look at the population numbers. And so so what I'm getting at here is that what he's done is change California, right? Generally speaking, he's like a governor of a California-sized state, a little bigger than a California-sized state. Tack a few more on there. I don't know. What would you have to vote? Did I click on? I did click on it. And that's what I was going to get at. Let's see who could we add to make up the. There you go. We could throw in Virginia. So California and Virginia. He's turned their economies back to respectable, and we all know about how bad things are in California as a socialist state that it is. They're all socialists. Just California's way, way up there on the socialist state. So that's how you do that. That's how you go and look and you try to validate some claim. What I do, I go and close the window. So now we'll never be able to get back to it. And this is why it doesn't work, right? That's why you can't do the stuff on the fly. You got to have the things there. And this is the main reason why here is because every time you go, the good chance for me to just make this statement yet again. So you see me pulling up MSN here on the screen. It's MSN.com. It's not news from MSN.com. I'm not just getting all my news from MSN.com. That's not what's happening. What's happening is it's an aggregate source. I get news from all these people, all these different places across the internet, and it changes every time. There's ABC News talking about a bull rider killed. That's a bummer. There's the Atlantic. There's USA Today. There's Game Rant. So it's just an aggregate. It's not my source of information. My source of information is all various different places. But yeah, when you go back to it, it resets. Every time you do it, all of these headlines up here reset, so we won't be able to find our way back there, and that's why you don't do things off the cuff. Supreme Court allows Trump administration. Actually, it very well could pop up there again. Supreme Court allows Trump administration to terminate teacher training grants. Yeah, what can I say about any of this stuff? They're terminating the things that they don't want to support. They're ending the support for the things they don't want to support, and they're bumping the budget up on the things that they do want to support. That's all there is to say about it. It's just the same old game. It's what they want to spend their money. Nothing's changing. Government won't change. I know that I talked about months ago, whatever it was, when they first started doing this, a couple of months ago, 3 months ago, whatever it's been. I guess he's been in there for a couple of months. I don't know. Whatever. None of it matters. Do you understand that none of what they're doing matters in your life unless you're involved in politics and trying to do something other than manage yourself and manage your wealth and manage your health and take care of the things that you need to take care of? Unless you're going around purposely trying to meddle in other people's business in the community that you are in, this is the story. This is it. These are the people. There's nothing here to be gained for you, for us. It's all for them. It's all what they want. They say it's what you want, but you aren't even a consideration. You just barely, as the people of your state, let alone the people of this nation, are barely included in this. You are nobody as an individual, and none of them care about you at all as an individual. And that's the thing that's most important in this conversation that we have. Anytime that we talk about how you need to separate yourself, to take your energy out of the system, to turn your back on government, to take your money into black and gray markets, and to do everything that you can to not support the system while it sits there and eats itself. Because if you're a part of it, if you're in it, it's yourself. You're them. You're what's going to get eaten when it all comes down. What you need to be doing right now with the economy the way it is, with things the way they are, you need to be out of debt, and you need to be looking for opportunities to turn what cash you have into other instruments that aren't debt instruments, whether it's gold or silver or comic books or Bitcoin, whatever it is. You need to be out of debt, and you need to be outside of the dollar when it comes to your ability to put together $2,000 in a month. That was a thing that popped up not too long ago. Another one that just kind of blew past me because it happened here in the last month, but it was a story about how the average American can't put together $2,000 in 30 days. And imagine how hard that would be if the $2,000 you needed was really today's equivalent of double that or something. How ridiculous would that be? Nobody's going to be able to come up with that. And so you need to have other alternatives, other things that you need to have, things that other people want. Just sorry, liberal left, I apologize, that you have to be able to participate. You have to be able to do something. Nobody's going to take care of you. They shouldn't have to take care of you. The government shouldn't have to take care of you. The people of your state shouldn't have to take care of you. Your family shouldn't have to take care of you. You should put in the time, the work, the effort, develop the skills, the tools, whatever it is, to do things for yourself. And I don't want to a tangent anymore. I could live 30 years, but I want to die. Has assisted dying in Canada gone too far? Don't care. It's not my life. And it's not your life. That was the whole point of what I just said. It's not your problem, and it doesn't matter to you. And it only creates a burden on your soul, on your mind, on your heart, on your being, on your physical being, when you are involved in, even peripherally, in all of the stupid of the world. You know what I think about the Bill Cosby thing? Here's what I think about the Bill Cosby thing. It's one more face in a catalog of faces in my memory that it would be great that I didn't have it in there to give any kind of concern to it whatsoever. In fact, it'd be great if it was replaced by another face. But that being said, Bill Cosby entertained the hell out of me for years, and I appreciate that, and I never expected him to be what you saw on TV. I expected him to be funny and entertain me, and if he was a flawed individual that had problems controlling his sexual urges and his freak, wanted to get his freak on, the people around him could have stopped him at the time. People could have done something about it. They waited until he was vulnerable. They waited until there was a movement to go and attack and harass people. That's what I think about it. I wish I didn't have to think about it at all. I would love to have a space in my life where that didn't happen, but I can't avoid that without avoiding a whole bunch of other things that I do want to participate in, that I do want to know about. And so, we take the good with the bad, right? What was it? Was there something? Yeah. Let me just click to the next. The San Francisco park naming contest goes hilariously wrong. Yeah, that always does. Let's see. Was it really hilarious or was it just stupid? Plan to ask the public to name a park. Nearly 4,300 entries. The park project receiving 54% support in a public vote. Opponents say the park rangers have... So the park isn't wanted. A bunch of people participated. Supporters say traffic will be moved to an underutilized neighborhood, so it's about how roads are being manipulated. District 4 supervisor played a major role in the Proposition K public park, which will be officially open on the 12th of April. Many have told me that they didn't feel heard in their objections. This is government, right? So here's the names, park names, and reasons for the proposed names. Parky McParkface, that's the Bodie McBoatface thing. It's been done. It's a cultural silliness. This is stupid. Let's not do it. Park. Really stupid park. It's a road. I like that one. Let's see. No one who lives here voted for this park. This is fantastic, and this is wonderful because I'm going in saying this isn't going to work. I'm going to break this. This won't happen. But come on, how would we have ever come across this? How would I have ever found this if we didn't do this? This is wonderful, and this is the Independent's out of the UK, right? So they're writing about California. That's really good. I'm a fan. I am a fan. Let's see. Me today. It's a dry mouth. You know what it is? It's the weather. The weather changed here all of a sudden. Not to mention the fact that I have done 6 hours of shows and commentary and conversations and this week. It's been as busy a week as any, ultimately trying to catch up and get back to where I was, get back here with you. Excavation near site where Jesus was crucified and buried results in ancient discovery. Oh, this could be fun. Let's see, this is Fox News. Proof of an ancient garden consistent with biblical scripture. I don't think anybody thought that the descriptions of the places were a problem. It's the people that lived in them that were a problem. Archaeologists excavating the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The ancient church in Jerusalem, situated where Jesus Christ was crucified and buried, recently found evidence of ancient olive trees and grapevines. The specimens date back roughly 2,000 years. Well, that's awesome, because not many of us out here who have any questions about the story really questioned the place. It was the time frame and the people. The magical powers, those sorts of things, superhero stories. New study exposes how a blue state's self-inflicted policies are responsible for high gas prices, and it's a picture of Gavin Newsom. So California, once again, we know, high up on the socialist order. Xbox celebrates Microsoft's 50th anniversary with free digital content. Sorry, but I'm going to check it out, because I don't have an Xbox, but I still have a Microsoft account, and so I can get all of the free content, even if I don't have a Microsoft account. I don't have an Xbox. Let's see. 50th anniversary with free customization items for consoles and PC, new background, solitaire theme for Windows, gamer picks, and badge are available. Customization items pay tribute to Microsoft's history, featuring iconic characters and nostalgic imagery. That's cool. That'll be fun. I'll have to play around with that at the next time I wander through there. I don't pull that up too often, because I don't have an Xbox anymore. I'm not necessarily playing through an Xbox. I'm not playing through a Microsoft platform anymore, so it's not always in my face. But every once in a while, I pull up a Microsoft game and my Microsoft gaming account there, and I'll have to add those to it just for the fun of it. Always like free things, even free digital things. Trump's art of the deal, tariff strategy working. Countries want to cut to zero. I don't think it is working, and if it is working, once again, it's like the bully in the schoolyard thing. It's only a temporary fix. It's not a long-term fix. We've done this before. We've been down this road. I've talked about it a little bit. I've had a little bit of fun talking about it. I talked about a paper I wrote a couple of decades ago about tariffs, without having ever read anything other than the economics in one lesson, and sort of having, you get these things, you get how money works, you get how money flows once you have that base understanding. And so when it comes to, do tariffs work, do you have to question whether tariffs work? Do I have to question whether tariffs will work? The answer is no, because it is just a manipulation of the market. It's an altering of the market. The market exists the way it is for a certain reason. You need to change those things to fix the market. It's the same problem with government. It's the same thing that I just said a little bit ago about government not changing, about nothing changing, about it being for them, those on the inside, not for us here. Because if it was for us, they would change it for the better for us. And that's why, with the Donald Trump thing, the idea of just reserving an opinion about it and just sort of observing what's going on is attempting to try to give him that chance to do the Argentina thing, to reverse what the course that this nation is on by setting an example through the federal system. It should have been a kind of a no-brainer thing. It should happen pretty easily because there's examples of it, because it should just work. That there's, again, what led me to that point is that it's an altering of a natural state, and these things exist in a natural state for a natural reason, not an altered reason. They at this point they're compounded altered reason on manipulated reason. So at this point you have to just go back to zero. You have to reset everything, and that's the Melee thing there in Argentina. This idea that it's possible to do the reset is because it's all waste. It's all waste. It's all useless. There's nothing good about any of it. It's all just being done for the benefit of the people within the system, while the rest of us get screwed, or the rest of us sit out here trying to figure out our ways to get a hold of a piece of what's going on through that system one way or another. You got all the people on the right now holding out their hands from Doge, going, please, where's my dividend check. Well, dividend checks come from business, for rewards for good business, for the business succeeding, and for the people investing in the business properly, and that's the return on the investment. Well, you didn't invest properly. The money wasn't spent properly. Nothing was created except for more debt, and now you want more money back out of it. You're supposed to be the conservative people. You're not supposed to fall for stuff like that. Even the poor conservative people, you're not supposed to fall for stuff like that. And come on. You want to talk about a conversation I shouldn't have with people that I shouldn't have to have it with. I shouldn't have to have the conservative economic conversation with friggin' conservatives. But here we are. The guy that doesn't know anything, that's only read the one book, that only has example after historical example of it failing, trying to tell you once again that this is the way it goes, and there's examples of it, there's proof of it, you're just setting yourself up for failure. I can't help you. I can't help. If I can sit here in this position and see it so easily and so clearly, and then, after seeing it and making that assessment, go out and find you the data to support it, that's how the process works. I make a claim, I go out and I say, here's the data. Well, it's all historical. It's all in numbers. It's all in economics. When you do it this way, it doesn't happen. When you do it this way, it does happen. I don't know what more I can tell you. And I don't know what more you think you need in terms of somebody to tell you to do it. You sit here and you say, these are the people on the left now, they sit here and they say that these guys up there, they're not suited to be able to do this, that they can't do it. They don't have the dollars and cents to be able to do it. They don't have the education. They're not the ones that we need in the job. Well, the ones that were in there didn't do any better for us. They didn't change anything either. All they did was expand the government. So your argument, your point is completely moot. You're just like them, the left and the right. Government, you're all the same. You're all a socialist endeavor, a failed socialist endeavor that is careening like a snowball headed for hell at this point. Did you get that? How do these guys say it's working? We have about 2 minutes. Vic Lagina coming in here at the top of the hour. 20-year veteran of the porn industry, director and producer for Brazzers content. A fantastic conversation. A really great guy. In terms of, I spoke to him for an hour, and in terms of what we spoke about, a really great guy and a really great conversation. I'm not judging the guy for what he's done, and because why should I? It's not my place to do so. And listening to the story, he wasn't doing anything with anyone, for anyone, to anyone that didn't want to participate. And when he saw that was maybe a way that it was headed, he got out of it. That's a conversation coming up here in the next hour. Really, truly a good conversation. You'll enjoy it. We'll talk with Vic. And let's see, what else? Was I going to drop one more thing? I thought there was one more thing I was going to talk about before we get to, I don't know. I guess if I want to look at this Trump thing, it's just one more minute of me telling you something you should already know. That the wife says she's going to be a few more minutes. Well, that's okay. That would be just fine, because I'm a couple more minutes here. And then we're going to go to dinner, and we're going to enjoy the rest of our Friday night. You will be hearing this on a Saturday night, but it is now Friday night for me. And I'm done. I'm worn out, I've had it. I've had a long week, and it's going to be great to just sit back and relax with the wife tonight, the family, the kids, and not do much of anything. I don't even think we're going to cook dinner. We're going to find a way to eat out somewhere. Somebody else is feeding us tonight. Vic Lagina is my guest next, right here on Toward Anarchy. Stick around.
A way of skeptically interrogating the universe with a fine understanding of human fallibility. If we are not able to ask skeptical questions, to interrogate those who tell us that something is true, to be skeptical of those in authority, then we're up for grabs for the next charlatan, political or religious, who comes ambling along. It's a thing that Jefferson laid great stress on. It wasn't enough, he said, to enshrine some rights in a Constitution or a Bill of Rights. The people had to be educated, and they had to practice their skepticism and their education. Otherwise, we don't run the government. The government runs us.
You're listening to Toward Anarchy. You're listening to Toward Anarchy on the Republic Broadcasting Network.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. The air is unfit to breathe. Our food is unfit to eat. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crying in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. My life has value.
Here we go, off into hour number 2, towardanarchy.com to follow along. Oh my, let me see if I can catch up with myself. It has been an amazing day, and it continues. I have so much more to do today. I get to talk to wonderful, fantastic, amazing people today, over and over again. I have a conversation for you, of course, right now. And if you go to towardanarchy.com, you will find my guest's link. His name is Vic Lagina, and it's viclagina.com. And it's just like it sounds, but with an L. And there's a reason behind that. And we will get into all that. I don't know where the conversation goes. Vic, you popped up there on this Podmatch thing, and it just sounded like a fantastic conversation. I just love having good conversations with people. But just so we know, we are on a network, and we do try to provide a family-friendly show. So whatever conversation we have, I can, it's recorded, so I can go and I can pull some things out if we have to. But it's just kind of nice to keep that in mind, because I want to be able to reach as many people as we can. And I think even a topic like this, a filthy topic like this, can be handled in a mature way that people can get something useful out of it, because this is a topic of great concern, really, truly, for the people involved in it and for the people, us out here on the outside who partake in such things. And so, Vic, I've set the stage. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Thank you so much for joining me, my friend.
Of course, and I'll watch my filthy potty mouth.
It's perfectly fine.
Yeah. So I was a 20-year veteran in the porn industry as a producer, director, cameraman. Started out in L.A. in 2002, and eventually I met the guys who would start Brazzers a few years after that. And boy, did I not have any idea of where this story was going to go and how long it was going to go. Initially, I got into it because every reason to get into it is because I was in debt and I needed money. Sure. So once the debt was gone, after I was just worked my butt off, I had this fledgling business. And so I decided to, instead of going back to, I guess, a quote unquote normal world, decided to see what was behind door number 2. And it turned into a very long and very profitable and very successful career in adult entertainment as a producer and a director.
That's really cool. I mean, it's not everybody's choice. It's not everybody's route, but clearly it's worked for you. And it's brought you here today to have a conversation about the industry. And you have a book, right?
I do. It's called Filthy, The Rise and Pending Death of Vic Lagina. It's right here. Yeah. And I mean, it wasn't just, okay, let me just take a job in the porn industry. I mean, my background is in production. I went to school for it, undergrad and grad school, which was about 6 years of too much education for production. However, it's my background. So when things were getting tough in LA and I couldn't really find a job, I answered an ad on a website called adultstaffing.com. And there was this kid, this Mexican kid, I would say he was about 19 years old, who wanted to shoot a porn movie. And so I told him I could do him and I could help him with it. And, I didn't have any experience at the time in the adult industry, but I didn't really think it was that hard to figure out. And it really wasn't. I mean, we're not dealing with complex machinery here or rockets. So that first day in April of 2002 turned into another job and another job, and then it just kept snowballing into a long career.
So what's with the Brazzers thing then?
Brazzers?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, there's been a lot of iterations of them. I was with them from 2004 until 2020. And that's 16 years working with one company. And in porn world, that's like a lifetime, because usually the porn career doesn't last that long. And I made it through 3 ownerships. They first started off as a group of frat bros, and they were known as Mansef back then. And they were just doing a lot of big boob stuff. That's really what their meat and potatoes was. But then these guys were really smart, and they knew how to market porn on the internet way back then, back in, the early aughts. And I had been, after LA, I went back to Florida because I was in debt and I couldn't sustain myself. And I was working again in corporate and commercial, but the porn snowball had already started. And to be honest with you, it paid quicker and faster than working in mainstream. So I had this business, and they told me, it was doing well in Florida, but it was very amateurish in Florida. Not really the consummate professional performers that you would find in LA in the Valley. And they told me if I were to tap into that, they would keep me very busy. So I didn't want to live in LA again because it's very hard to get ahead in LA. So I set up shop in Vegas, and I brought LA to me. And upon landing in Vegas in early 2006, it was busy every month until COVID hit. Unless, of course, we had shut down some from time to time if there was like an HIV outbreak or something similar. But
things that don't make the news.
It did, because it would always make the news if there were anti-porn crusaders that wanted to use something to bolster their cause and put condoms in porn. So anytime there was something like that cropped up, the AIDS Healthcare Foundation would come across and scream about condoms in porn. And then the porn industry would scream back and say, our body's our choice. We don't like condoms, to the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. And, it was, those were the little battles we had to face. But this company grew and grew and grew, and they kept me busy for a very long time.
So you must have found some value in it. Was it just a job, and it just was that easy, and so you just do it? So I'll give you for instance. So I watched a documentary one time. It was about Walmart, and it was all these Walmart employees who were upset about the industry. But then, down in the bottom, as a producer, we do these things, right? They put the little thing down at the bottom that shows the guy's name and says he's retired and says how long he worked there. And every single one of these guys was a manager at Walmart for 20 years. And so there's this guy that is now complaining about how Walmart treats its customers and how bad they are and how bad they are to their employees and all this. And he worked there for 20 years.
Yeah, well, I'll put it to you this way. There was also other factors, mainly financial. Even though the job was paying well and although I was very busy, I bought a house in Vegas right before the peak of the market. And when the Obama economy really started taking hold and the bubble burst, especially out here in Vegas, this house that I bought was very much underwater. So there was a need to continue on doing it. Now, I was really good at managing the chaos, which is porn production. Production itself is a chaotic job because you have so many variables going on at once. But then throw sex on top of it, then you're going to a whole nother level of insanity. But for whatever reason, I knew how to manage this. I kept my cool. I was able to navigate through any kind of problems that we would find. And okay, certainly it was interesting. No day was ever boring. No day was ever like routine. No day was ever like the previous day. So in that sense, I would say, okay, it was interesting. I think what had happened was through the differences in how ownerships ran the company, changed how I felt about the company. And when third ownership came in, slowly but surely they sucked any and all joy from the job.
Okay.
And if you follow the news and you kind of know what they were involved in, especially with Pornhub, you can understand that they weren't really the best quality of people, especially with what they were allowing to happen on Pornhub for a very long time. So yeah, I would say it would be fair that I despised them after a while, but on the same end, it's like, well, just ride this out as long as you can. Don't die before you exit, because that's a common story with a lot of people in the adult industry. And COVID.
I don't mean to laugh about it, but it's actually a thing. It's a thing it's a constant thing that has to be. You have to remind people of. Yeah, don't do the things that are going to end you, like a lot of people in the industry have ended before they were able to exit. Yeah.
And I mean that I very well could have been one of those tales had it continued on any longer than my exit during COVID. And there was a lot of reasons for that exit as well. Mainly the business changing overall, and mainly that it no longer really made sense for me. The day-to-day no longer made sense. The rules no longer made sense to me. Whereas it was
was because of COVID?
No, not COVID. It was more of the new breed of younger performers and their inability to speak up during a sex scene where, we had protocols in place, which was an entry interview and an exit interview. And we had words that were said if someone felt that their boundaries were crossed, like no, or cut, or stop. But what I was finding is that the performers born after a certain period of time did not have that ability to save those words. What they would do instead would get through an entire scene, get through the entire exit interview, leave me with the impression that everything was fine, but then days or weeks or even years later would say, oh, my line was crossed on that day. And you look at the footage and you look at a recap of the day and you're like, you didn't say anything, so how was I to know? And it was expected of us to be mind readers, eye readers, along those lines. And
we got to provide a safe space in the middle of your porn.
Sure. And I thought we were doing that for a while, but it seemed to me that
the industry's been really good about it. It's not like this hasn't been going on for some time. It's been very supporting industry.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think when the companies started validating the reasons why performers were not speaking up, instead of saying perhaps we should not be shooting this individual because they don't know their code of conduct, they don't know what's supposed to be said, they don't know that they should be able to speak up. And I always try to say, hey, look, if there's ever a problem, just speak up during the scene and we'll work it out. And that worked for a very long time. But I just felt the slope was a bit slippery. And I think another reason was I felt that, I had I'll clean this up for you, a BS to dollar ratio, which justified going to work every day. And if you're telling me I'm getting paid this much and I have to manage this much nonsense, okay. But I kind of felt that, and a lot of it had to do with the fact of what was going on internally with the company, that the money was not there to justify the day-to-day BS.
Fair enough.
So you put it all into a big snowball, and that was where I think I'm going to be out.
Why wasn't the
especially
money there, though? Is that because greedy corporate heads, or are we talking about the sort of the natural sort of internet is affecting the whole thing and OnlyFans and stuff like that?
Well, they dominated the internet for a while. It wasn't until really the explosion of OnlyFans when the transfer of wealth went from the companies over to the performers, which I supported. But a guy like me, who had a good salary, 7-person crew, a huge studio, and a lot of overhead, I just became a little too expensive, especially when the money that they were getting wasn't really coming in anymore.
Sure.
And I mean, look, I can cut it a million different ways. The truth is, I was hating the job after a while. As I said, they sucked all the joy out of it, and me not knowing how to deal with the new breed of performers, it just kind of made sense for me to say, all right, it's been real.
Well, the people that you're talking about, that seems to be consistent with them across the board, right? We're talking about people who they don't speak up for themselves in any place, in any space, and then they turn around and they cry about how bad it was for them, and nobody ever told them that they had to do these things in the first place, that it had to be this way, that they didn't have a say, and it's funny that they're considered to be strong. Oh, they're so strong and they're so brave. They're speaking up about it. No, it's kind of weak. You should have spoke up then. You should have stood up for yourself. We didn't make it so that nobody's being forced to do anything here. At least we hope not.
Right. No, it's true. And there's a lot of safeguards, including a vetting process from the agents who represented these girls that were on the other side of my desk. It's not like we were handing out flyers on the strip. Hey, you want to be in a porn movie? No, it was like these were vetted people. Yeah. And so when the rules got a little bit murky, I figured, okay, let the younger generations figure it out. I'm going to just kind of walk into the porn sunset and be done with this. Because at that point, I had made enough smart moves to ensure that I could get out and live comfortably without having to go deal with this on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, wow. That I guess that's the long and veiny of it, as Chevy Chase would say. So then you decided to write a book about it all. Then just put it all down on paper. What's that for? Is that for your own clarity? Is that for to let people know what's going on?
So it started as a journal in 2015, where at that point I had been in the business for 13 years. And, at that point, especially with the drugs I was doing, the details start to get a little murky. So I figured now is a good time, while it's still fresh in my brain, to get it all into a tangible medium. And anytime we would have one of those aforementioned shutdowns, I would revisit, I would bring it up to speed, and I would continue to do so. And I did again in the summer of 2020 when we were sitting around with our thumbs up our butts waiting to figure out how do we get back to work. Right. And then when the work didn't return and when I saw the shift in the business, and then more importantly, the studio that I had bought that I was renting to the company, at that point, it was like, okay, do I become a landlord now? What do I do? And the answer was become a landlord and sell the landlord and the building to an investor. And then now you have even more money to walk away with. So once all that happened, it was like, okay, now what? And I guess the truth is that when I supervised 2 studios over the course of my career, and all I did was shoot movies that ended with a facial. And coming from a guy who was a creator, who liked to make movies and TV shows, I decided to do that in the studio before I vacated it. And after I sold the studio, I'm waiting on the editor to deliver it, and he's taking forever. And so I was like, maybe it's time to turn the book or the journal into a book. And so that's what I did. And I really put a lot of time in those last, I'd say, year and a half when I was trying to figure it out. Like my story, my relationships, my trajectory in the business, it was a bit of a train wreck for sure. But was it enough to sustain a reader? Maybe, because people love a train wreck. But what I decided to do was, when that narrative becomes a little bit stale, let's veer off into a side topic. Let's talk about the Vic Lagina's school of porn, the 9 lessons of the things you encounter during a shoot, or the people that we lost during the shoot, to really put the humanity in the business, to show that there's real pain going on in the business. And then also kind of like, and this is the most favorite part I think people find in the book, the fly on the wall of what is going on a day-to-day basis. And my prologue and my epilogue are like the live orgies that we would shoot and broadcast live on the internet. Those were crazy days. And I was like the mad conductor on the crazy train. And since I have all the footage, I just sat back, watched the footage, and just recapped it all. So the book is like my journey interspersed with a lot of side topics that a lot of people find intriguing about the business.
Yeah, no, that's what sells it. You can have your dramatic story and everything, but that's only going to carry just so much interest. You get to tell us the rest of the story. Yeah, fill in all those other blanks, because we go from guy over here to guy over here. There's a bunch of stuff in between we need to know.
Right. And, the whole act of refining a book and making it so the narrative is so tight, I mean, that takes time. This was not an AI endeavor. This was all organic, and that takes time. And so I put the time in, I put the money in to deliver a good product in both the print book and the audio book. But what was the most interesting part was, as my story, the story of Vic Lagina, was wrapping up, so is the story of MindGeek, the third iteration of the company, because of all the things that were going down and all of the hot water that they were in, that first came to light during the summer of COVID in 2020 and continues on to this very day. There's class action lawsuits against them. There's a lot of legal battles about holding them accountable for having a lot of nefarious porn on Pornhub that they allowed, whether it was intentional or if it was just because they were neglectful in their protocols in allowing this going on. But that was, I think, really the main reason why we parted ways. The business changing, sure, but the truth is, behind the scenes, their house was on fire. Right. So, and I kind of came to the conclusion that there was more going on once my book was wrapping up and once I found out more that was going on with the company and Pornhub and everything that was happening with them. Man,
that's wild to think, to go through all that, because there have been everything has changed since in 1996 or so, when people really started to jump on the internet. Everything has completely changed. Everything is gone. We're doing it now. It was Bill Maher here, I heard say something not too long ago, and I think he said it a number of times, that he said, if you had asked me 10 years ago what the dominant form of entertainment would be, and that it would be AM radio, he wouldn't have believed it. I would have believed it because I've been watching this, and I believe everything that's happened in that industry, because it's grown with the technology and it changed right along with the technology, and it embraced it from the beginning. Let's just say it was a great place to distribute that type of product, for sure. So fully embraced by the internet and fully changed the industry from what it was.
Yeah. And I was with the company that changed it. So I had a front row seat with the company that changed the business forever, that effectively became and still is the porn monopoly. I mean, of course
that's the word, right? We hadn't got to that word yet, is that they kind of have monopolized that particular area of the porn industry, for sure.
Yeah, it all happened when the original owners, who were a bunch of frat bros in Montreal, started getting squeezed by the local mafia up there. And so they decided to sell. And the person they sold it to was a software developer who developed software where you can track clicks on the internet. Now, we're talking, 20 years ago, when this guy was really coming up with the whole product of tracking clicks on the internet. So he had all this money, so he decided to buy Brazzers and all its holdings, which included Pornhub at the time. So what he did with his savvy which was weird because he was a very odd guy. I don't know if he was on the spectrum or what, but he wound up convincing Wall Street that the company was more tech-oriented, and he wound up securing 9-figure Wall Street loans to buy virtually every profitable company in the porn industry. And the second iteration of them was called Manwin. First was Manseth, then Manwin. And during this Manwin phase, I mean, gobbling up everything, tube sites, dating sites, gay sites, anything that was profitable. So you have this massive expansion. Now, I'm one of the spokes, one of the cogs in this meat grinder, and they kept me very busy. So as much as I saw what they were doing in some ways at that point, which was copyright infringement, especially on Pornhub, I was like, that's not my battle. My battle is in pay sites, in compliance, so I'm not really worried about that.
Yeah.
The problem was when he got arrested for tax evasion.
Oh.
Yeah. He was arrested in Germany for evading taxes. And so the third iteration of the company was born. They rebranded into MindGeek. And it was people within the company that bought his shares, as well as the owner of RedTube who bought his shares. And they rebranded as MindGeek. And they were very efficient. I will say that. Because I would tell you during the man-win phase, very wasteful. And as a producer and someone who works with budgets, I found it maddening because I'm like, you're wasting all this money here when you could be putting it in my operation. We could be making more money. But the MindGeek guys were very savvy. And so you start cutting more and more and more and chiseling more and more and more. Now, my take home every day was still good. And it still justified it. But, when I tell you they were sucking the joy out of the job, they're getting sued by companies because they see tiny logos. And so blurring was involved. And then if a producer like me did not catch a tiny logo, they would fine us for the blurring time. Little things like that got to the point where you're like, all right, whatever. And then I guess the biggest thing was, so porn, the sex part, wasn't even the most important thing anymore. It wasn't even secondary anymore. It was the ads that were going up on Pornhub. So the concepts that were being handed down to us were so mind-boggling and head-scratching because they just wanted to get click-worthy ads to lead them to Brazzers so these people would buy a membership. So you start going into work every day, you're like, what am I doing? What are we even doing anymore? And it got more and more like that. And, with the whole Me Too, we can't speak up, slippery slope, it was like, I knew the writing was on the wall. It was just a matter of, is it years? Is it months? Is it, weeks? And it turned out it was a little virus that really ended it all for me, which was fine.
Well, it probably ended as cleanly as it could because of that, really. I'm sure. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but I suppose, with the very sort of raw nature of the production and, you just have to, what a notch. I can't imagine trying to reduce everything that has a logo on it in my life. Jesus, what the hell's
right.
Oh, Star Wars right there.
Yeah,
Batman on my head.
we would do parodies all the time. But I'll tell you, there were certain people like Louis Vuitton, the red bottom shoes. Models were not allowed to wear the red bottom shoes anymore because apparently he's not a porn fan, so he was suing. But then you see like a little Gucci logo or a little Ray-Ban logo on someone's glasses that I'm not going to see, but when you're shooting in 4K, you're going to catch up with it. So. Yeah, there was that, but it was just more like, what are we shooting? What are we doing every day? And
well, give me an example, because that's how you started. That was by suggesting that what they were having you shoot was I don't know, not the quality, but was commercially viable, at least in terms of selling advertisement.
I suppose, but I mean, when they send a model to you that you don't know anything about, which I think was also kind of slippery because they would send someone to me. I'm like, do you know anything about this person? No, they've got a big following. I'm like, okay, but is she like mentally stable? Well, no, but you know what, Vic, you always figure it out. We trust you. And when I had their trust, I was like, okay. So, but then there was like, I remember this day. All right. So I have this male performer that I really like, Charles Dara. He had such a good attitude because he was just unflappable. He knew what his job was. He had a good sense of humor. And they wanted us to shoot this 55-year-old woman bodybuilder that literally looked like she had like this big scar like down her torso. And it looked like, I mean, I know this didn't happen, but someone took a samurai sword, chopped her in half, put her back together, and we're shooting this. And I'm going into work that day like, what are we doing? And Charles was just like, hey, man, I'll do anything once. Like that was his attitude. So, you know, when I say I don't know what we're doing, there was also this girl, like, so they wanted us, a lot of the requests were coming from either Russian porn or Japanese porn. I mean, they're into some weird stuff.
Yeah,
they really
different.
are.
Yeah.
Right. But, you know, there was this one concept, this Russian concept where it would have made sense, but it was a girl on her back. She had this glass, like we'd had this special piece of glass cut out. So it would like be like over her neck, which it sounds so dangerous, right? But the whole point of it was so she couldn't see who was having sex with her.
Right.
And that works if you have like 10 guys, but we had like 3 guys. And the only position that you could do is missionary.
Right.
So you're like, again, what are we doing here? Like it just like for me, I'm a very logical person. Just make it make sense. That's all I ask. And it was just becoming nonsensical where I was like, all right, let's just go in with our best.
Well, every little thing like that, you know, as a producer, is something that is potentially going to withdraw, is going to take somebody out of the moment. And obviously we're talking about a particular moment here when we're talking about this subject, but just across the board as a producer, as somebody who's producing content to keep people's attention, you don't want anything in there that takes away from the attention. You don't want that big, well, we'll just say scar, that people are going, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, listen. We all know the goal of this. It's to deliver a product that someone can masturbate to. And I'm not going to judge what people masturbate to. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of weird things out there that I don't understand that people masturbate to. Okay, that's fine. But
rule of 34.
Right, exactly. But the truth was, it was like, but that's not what Brazzers was over the years. And okay, sure, things need to change, things need to evolve. I get that, but it really started shying away of what are we doing? Like I just didn't get it anymore.
Well, that's scary for you. That has to be scary for you in a legal standpoint with everything that's going on. It's scary for you in a moral standpoint in being clearly somebody who thinks that this is a voluntary thing that everybody's participating in and that everybody should have their say in their space and it should be open and honest and it should work like that. Yeah, I can't imagine having to really witness that change. I think we're already witnessing that just kind of across the board in society. I think certainly in American society, but just that's a close up, stark view of a really extreme view of people and our society that starts to show things like that earlier than it'll show in other places that are a little more elastic and a little more, I mean, the thin line, right? There's a thin line between producing, I don't even know what the word is with the rule of 34. I don't know what the word reasonable means anymore. It's something different to everybody, but you know what I mean? A reasonably well produced, not necessarily thought-provoking, but at least not thought-distracting, a piece of artwork for somebody, and watching the tools that you've used so successfully to do that over the years change unnecessarily.
Yeah, and I also think too, you know, with the drops in revenue and then therefore the drops in budget, I wouldn't have been able to deliver the quality. Like if you look at Brazzers now, it's a shell of a company that it was. The quality is not there. They don't really, I mean, they have money still, but they don't have as much money, and they don't have the money to put in the things to elevate that production. I also think too, because they need the big performers and their traffic, they're spending more on the performer side than they are crew. So again, it came down to the money not making sense when it comes to how much BS you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, how many of these things you got to get under your belt before you're considered a star? Whereas today we have these people that are coming in that are influencers that are already stars.
Well, I think the reality is that they earn their stripes in the years preceding COVID by being in studio porn and being on Brazzers. I mean, the ones that I were shooting are the contract stars for Brazzers now. And I think you got a handful of them, maybe 4 or 5 of them. But to get back onto that level these days, I don't, it's very hard. I don't think it's even possible. And, and everyone decided to join OnlyFans during the pandemic years. So it's no longer as juicy as it was as it was prior to that. So
now it's it's a little different.
It's super saturated, very diluted. So it's everyone vying for attention, everyone vying for that traffic. And
that's good though, because that's what happens is where everybody goes, everybody runs to the free thing, everybody runs to the place, the space where it's all at. And then when the space gets full, the space breaks down, people go back out and they look and they find the things that worked before. They look at that and they go, well, it worked up to this point, just as we're discussing here, and where it broke down is here. We got to roll it back and let's go back to this. And that's, I think it's true of all the studios. This isn't a porn specific, porn industry specific thing. This is a major studio problem that we're experiencing right now, because everybody has a camera, everybody has a script, everybody has a story to tell, and so it's all diluted. It's all and only even the biggest guys, the Disneys, they're finding this out now. They had the money to stave off what the porn industry has already gone through, the big guys have gone through, but now it's catching up with them, and they're starting to realize the same thing, that what sells in entertainment is not the mass production of it, it's the quality. It's the getting people interested in, in some cases anyway, the stories and the characters that are being told, and really the idea that these are coming from real people, that these are ideas, that these are things that are coming from real people, and not a corporate meeting somewhere that suggested this is what people want to see or should see or need to see. So much more natural, and they're all turning back. They all have to. They all will, or they'll all fail. And everybody will be a producer. Everybody will have a movie. Everybody's 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, I think you described what was what Brazzers was, what MindGeek was in those 6 years. I mean, in the beginning with the frat bros, it wasn't very corporate. It became corporate towards the end of their tenure, and then after that, it became more corporate, and then it was like really, really corporate. Where basically you had these people up in Canada, which is where they're based, sitting around a boardroom pitching these ideas based on what was popular on some YouTube or Instagram or whatever. And that's what the concepts we were getting, in addition to Pornhub searches. But, the truth is that I think it was very interesting how everything timed out, especially with the New York Times expose that came out in December of 2020 that talked about the trafficking victims of Pornhub. Now, I was gone by then. We had already parted ways. So as someone who would have had that knowledge, and I was still at the company, I don't think I would have been able to work for them.
It wouldn't have been good.
I would have been like, I think it's time to be over. So when it all happens, I was just like, the chain of events did happen the way it did. And I navigated those waters and I got out alive, which I'm grateful for. And then, there was the time being away and reprogramming and normalizing again, which was also a process. When you're not waking up every day, going to work, shooting a sex scene, and you start waking up, spending your day however you want to.
Any other way.
It's such a contrast. But
sure.
There was peace. There was happiness. There was joy. So when you get to that, you're like, well, money can't really put a price tag on something like that. And I looked at it like this, I worked hard to not lose this house and, to pay the mortgage down. Like, dude, now it's time to enjoy it. So that's what really I've been doing ever since. And, the book has been more cathartic, especially writing about it.
Say that word.
It totally was, making sense of it. But I mean, getting the word out and delivering a product that people are enjoying and recommending to other people. Yeah, it's amazing. As an artist, I would always work on things, but sometimes I would bury them because I wasn't proud of it. I didn't think it was going to be something that I would release to the public. Yeah. So with this, though, I was like, yeah, we're going to make sure that this is as good as possible and that we are going to make this work. And so that's what I did. That plus the audiobook and everything else. I really put my best foot forward and put a lot of resources and time towards the project so that anyone who buys it feels like they get their money's worth.
That's great. No, and that's consistent. That's consistent with everything that you said about your career and everything that you're doing now. So when did the book come out?
I released it, this is cosmic, on my 50th birthday in October of 2023. There was an eclipse going on that day as well. So I figured, hey, this is the best time to get it done. So it's been a slow burn. It's slowly getting to the point, and this was really my goal, cult classic status. Nice. Because I knew that, a book about porn is not going to be an easy sell for really
probably not
everyone.
Hitting the NYT.
Right. But who cares?
Who cares? Absolutely.
The people who know. And I've gotten a lot of good feedback from people either through Twitter, Instagram, or whatever. They're saying, yeah, I like it and I'm recommending it to everyone. I'm like, awesome. Word of mouth. That is what is going to make this thing a success and a cult classic. And that was really
well, and it's grassroots, right? It's everything that it's doing it. It's putting in the work. It's making the effort, and that's awesome. There's a lot of people that aren't doing that, and I think it's obvious. I think that's what we've been talking about the whole time, right? Is that people that just they're not putting in the effort anymore. They're not putting in the effort for themselves. They're not putting in the effort for the production. They're not putting in the effort to sell the business, to do the business, run the business the right way. It's just a lack of effort because it's too damn easy, right? It's so easy now. You just flip on the camera and throw your clothes off.
Right. Or feed it through Chat GPT or Grok or whatever. Yeah, and that was the thing. I'm not even bothering
myself because I'm doing my things. I don't use any for producing language, but for images, I use the image generators all the time because I don't have time, even though I'm an artist and I can draw and I respect artists and I own a comic book shop and I do comic book reviews every day and I love these artists and I love the work that they put into them. I can't afford them to do it, to have them draw me a picture every single time I produce a new piece of content 2, 3, 4 times a day, whatever it is, and drop out there. And so things like the AI, they have their place, they have their use as a tool, but it's terrible. These people that are trying to use it as a replacement for doing the work. The work.
Yeah. That's why I made sure to let everyone know this is 100% organic, and it came from humans. The covers, everything. The audiobook was also fun putting together. I spent a small fortune on legal because I'm very honest in the book, and I needed to write it in a way and be guided on how to write it where I'm not going to get into legal hot water, especially. Right. Well, so they guided me, and once the text was locked and I started recording the audiobook, that was a fun experience. And so I recommend to anyone who doesn't have time to read, but they like audio, check out the audiobook.
Check out the audio.
Yeah, because I had never listened to one before, so I wanted to make mine completely unique. And, as an artist, I spent a lot of time on that as well. 40
Really?
days recording, 50 days editing, all put together by me, So it's a journey. It's definitely a journey. People have described it as an acid trip in some ways.
Fun.
Because it's a little weird and out there, but it's also grounded. It's also human. I mean, people have told me, like, this one chapter, I was literally bawling my eyes out. I was crying, and I was like, I'm glad that I was able, as an artist, and my words were able to get you to that point. Other people said, I saw the humanity in it. I wasn't expecting so much humanity coming from a book about porn. And that's what I think my biggest hurdle has become, which is convincing the world and people that a pornographer could deliver something of such humanity and such intelligence. That is what I have to really get through. And I have to break on through that barrier, because if someone wants to read a book, will a book about porn be on the top of their list? Likely not. But if they hear that, like, no, dude, it's a good ride, it's been working in that sense.
Yeah. No, I hadn't thought about it like that, but no, that's great. Being at the center of it and doing it all yourself and making it yours has to be more important than it being the biggest thing that ever happened. But isn't it great when somebody like a normie, a normie recognizes the value in it, but then also, have you heard from people in the industry? Have you heard about heard from people that you've talked about or that you've mentioned in there, and they had something to say about you, ultimately making them, relive their experience, be emotional, be, drawing them back to that time, whatever it is, just totally respecting. I get that when I do reviews about comic books, because I do mostly independent stuff as opposed to, Marvel and DC, the things that everybody, all the other people are paying attention to. It's so much more important to those creators when somebody like me talks about their work and appreciates it, not just tries to sell it, but appreciates it, and that's why you're selling it, and that's what I do. And they reach out to me and they say, I really appreciate that you had such kind words to say about my art, and it just makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah. Regardless of the people of the industry, there were some. But this is a complex question, because number one, it sounds terrible to say, but not many people in the industry read. Okay. And a lot of people in the industry are very much consumed in themselves, as you might expect, and outputting their content or their cringy videos or their Instagram or everything else. So digesting it. But then there's also another big factor here. So because me and the company did not part on good terms, and because I'm very honest about them, and because they have such a big stranglehold still over the industry, there's a lot of people out there who would not be very public about supporting my endeavor, because they're worried about, I guess, getting the wrath of the company. So, but people outside, civilians, as we call them, I hear about it all the time. They're like, dude, it's like when someone throws the word masterpiece around, I'm like, I'm a humble guy. Wow. I'm like, wow, okay, thank you. I mean, I do appreciate it. And I'm very grateful for those who have supported it, for sure.
Well, I'm a big fan of authors. I aspire to do it someday, to actually take all these things that I talk about all the time and put some of it down into a book. But it has to. I'm like you. It has to be right. It has to be the right creative work for me. It has to make me happy. I have to want to do it, and then it just has to, do its thing on its own. I just totally respect the people who will take the time to do it, because as a sort of political commentator, I purposely talk about the things in an open forum so that I don't have to be right. I don't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be exact. It just has to be the conversation. When you get to the book, you got to do the work. When you're doing the writing, you got to do the work. You have to make sure it's right. You have to know that what you put down there on the paper works for you, but it has to be right too. It has to be the truth. It has to add up when you start doing the math.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so with me, 8.5 years. That's how long it took me from that was the long journey. Now, obviously, a lot of it was spaced out as my journey was becoming complete. But I'll tell you that last year and a half where it was like, here is the granite that is this big statue. Right. Now, the chiseling to make it a statue, that took a lot of time. And that was really intensive. And it went through a few editors and a lot of revisions and more revisions. And then you get to the point of like typos, which are the cockroaches of the publishing world, and making sure you caught everyone. And even so, I was like, man, it was really tough. But I think I got them all.
You think you got them all, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
And nobody's going to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and tell you didn't, because none of us have that kind of time.
Right, and the truth is too, it's even when I do catch them, I'm able to re-upload and upload and adjust the manuscript.
I know that's nice and Orwellian of you.
Exactly, it's cool. It's very cool in that sense. So, but otherwise, I tell people too. Go to the website as well. There's a trailer on there.
Tell us about it.
I don't know if
What's up there. I noticed there's a bunch of videos and things like that up there as well.
Well, there's one video. It's the trailer for
just one. Okay.
Yeah, it's the trailer. That was the project I shot before I vacated the studio. It was originally supposed to be a 6 days of a pornographer movie that might have been about 70, 80 minutes long. And I had a Hollywood actor named James Duval. He was in a lot of independent films. He was in Independence Day. He played me, and I played another character in it, which I'll let people kind of draw their conclusions as to what it is. But as I was waiting for this editor to deliver it, and I was completing the book, when he finally delivered the cut, which I would say took him 20 months to deliver a cut, I was completely underwhelmed by it. So I decided I'm not going to release it. So what I did instead was released a book trailer that showcases all of the gold from the production that we did. Sure. And it's a nice lean trailer that really demonstrates the tone, the nature, the concept of the book.
So now I understand. I wasn't sure if then maybe you were taking and turning the book into a movie already at this point, but it's actually the other way around.
Well, I still could do that with the footage.
Yeah, absolutely, right.
But I think the key is to get someone to look at that trailer and to say, oh, I get it. I see what you can do. Let's expand this to something bigger with a budget. And that's the phase that we're in right now. And so people who check out the trailer, they're like, I can totally see this being on Netflix or HBO or something. Right. And I'm like, well, I guess that was really the point of it. So if you go to viclagina.com, you can check the trailer. It's uncensored. So there are porn stars and their boobies in it, if that is enough to draw people to it. But also there's the links on if you want a signed copy, if you want to get the print copy, or if you want to stream the audiobook, the links are all on there. So I encourage people to check it out. And I'm always accessible on either Twitter or Instagram on getting people's thoughts.
That's awesome. Well, and of course at towardanarchy.com, we'll have all your contact information up there, and I'll make sure that you get that link and everything, because this will air Saturday night. Awesome. It'll air with the other hour. And it'll be fantastic. I really enjoyed chatting with you. We still got about 5 minutes or so. So if there's anything that you think that we haven't hit on yet that we can squeeze in there, because I had no idea. When I wanted to talk to you, you said exactly what I expected you to say. It was that there's real people behind this industry. There's real people over years, and there's stories to be told here, and that you paid them the respect to do it. Make sure we didn't miss something.
Well, I think there's a message to really get out, especially if you are a porn consumer. I no longer am. I'm in a committed relationship, so I don't even watch it anymore. But I tell people, you do have choices in the matter here. And of course, people like free. So of course, they're going to go to the tube sites, to get what they need. But if you really take a deep dive into Pornhub and everything that has gone on, I hope that you would be conflicted about being a patron of them because of what they did, and I always say, support your favorite creator. It's okay to pay for porn. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's cheaper than a lot of things that exist in this world. And it was a business at one time where people forked over the money. It wasn't go get it free on Pornhub or any other tube site and help them drive their traffic and become a traffic site, essentially. Yeah, so I tell people, just support your favorite creator, because they are working hard. And if you do enjoy what they do, then throw some money in their tip jar. I mean, it makes the most sense there. So
supporting him directly. That's the way of the world. That's the way things are going. So it's only natural for you to do this. But like I said, the porn industry being, it's really at the tip of what is acceptable and what isn't in our society. And so it's always got to be at the tip of trying to reinvent itself. And I think you've painted a pretty interesting picture just for me here. I'm going to go pick up the book. I don't necessarily do that. This is just this week.
Okay, got it. Makes sense.
I got plenty to read.
You got your homework.
I'm really interested in this topic, and I'm really interested in the humanity of it. And so I appreciate you taking the time and introducing me to it. And I'm going to check it out, and maybe I'll get you back on here after I've read it, and we can talk more specifically about what's in the book as opposed to just the book. And I love any of the conversations, so I'll have you back anytime we chat about anything. But this is just an interesting topic to me because I know that it is it's something that culturally is very significant to us because it is about sex and it is about relationships, and it borders on the line between what's real and what's not, and what's acceptable and what's not. And so I love living on that line. I love walking the thin line. And so finding out more about this and the real people involved in it is really neat. And I thank you for taking the time.
Of course, the high tight wire analogy.
Yeah,
it's very appropriate for this because I felt like I was on that, and I was on the line a lot between light and dark, and allowing the darkness of the business to take hold. So it was a constant battle to stay in the light, and that's a central theme in the book. And I'm glad you brought that up.
And that's what I need. I think that what we've been talking about here and everything is I need to see that part of it because I don't think we can express that enough. I know we've tried. I know we've made a great effort at it and to suggest that there's a moral and human stance behind what's going on here. And again, real people in these situations. And that's really what I love. I do not like blanket statements about anything or anyone because they're generally not true. They're always not true. There you go. If we're throwing blanket statements down, let's do it correctly. They're always not true when you throw down blanket statements about people. And I like to find out about the truth of things. And I like to find out the truth of industries. My father actually lives in Van Nuys. So if anybody, people know. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. But he's a B movie guy, not a porn movie guy. But he goes through the same thing. Everybody sees Disney, everybody sees Marvel, everybody sees Star Wars, everybody sees Kathleen Kennedy, all this. They don't see the real people. They don't see the real people behind the myriad of other pieces of art and production that come out of it. And unfortunately, Vic, I got to let you go. But thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Anytime, my friend.
All right.
Let's do it.